If you're like me, you could definitely use some extra cash right now. So if you're sitting on old engagement jewelry that's been collecting dust in a drawer that you're like, why do I even still have this? I've got news for you. The experts at Worthy can help you turn that into cash. The cash you could probably use right now on your single parenting journey. It's risk-free, it's fast, literally no more than 2 weeks until you are joining one of the 80,000 people who have already had their jewelry turned into cash. Thousands of people have left verified 5-star reviews. This is a legit process that will make you feel so much lighter and your pockets a lot fuller. Trust me, these guys are the real deal. So all you need to do is visit worthy.com/moms, and I'm going to give you an extra $100 on me if your jewelry sells for over $1,500. That's worthy.com/moms, and I've got you covered. The top financial divorce question I hear most: am I going to survive financially? Divorce brings so many unknowns. Your home, the kids' school, travel, clubs, even health insurance. How will it all be covered? You deserve to know the answers and see exactly what your finances allow. That's why I've teamed up with certified divorce financial analyst Sylvia Guinan for a new segment of our Moving On Method podcast called Money and Moving On. Together, we are going to help you confidently plan your future and maintain the lifestyle you've worked so hard to build. As the next step, click the link in show notes to get your free guide, Navigating Divorce, and consider it a first step to clarity and confidence with your finances. The use of the CDFA designation does not permit Wells Fargo advisors or its financial advisors to provide legal advice, nor is it meant to imply that the firm or its associates are acting as experts in the field. Wells Fargo Advisors is a trade name used by Wells Fargo Clearing Services, member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer, and non-bank affiliate of Wells Fargo and Company. Welcome back to another episode of the Moving On Method. I'm really excited to introduce you to an old friend today. The doctor's in the house, Dr. Erika Velez. But it's this specific post that spoke to me recently that I was like, you know what? We need to have a conversation with this. Erika and I have talked in the past about numerous things, but as you know, my focus is really helping protect our children as they're navigating the world of divorce that we've chosen for them. And let me read you this post. Quick PSA, not believing or valuing social emotional skills as a parent doesn't mean your child won't need them. It just means they'll have to learn them outside of your home. The cost? Constant battles with you, struggles with teachers and friends, and years of unlearning. Your call. Mm-hmm. Boom! Dr. Erika Velez is here with us today. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's been years.
It has.
I don't even remember. Did I come on your podcast?
You did. You came on my podcast right at the beginning.
When was that? What year?
I think it was like 2019.
Oh, so we are whole new people now.
Yeah. Oh. Post-pandemic, who isn't?
Right. That time didn't even exist. Yeah. But your Instagram is really, I think I wrote to you maybe a year ago that like every single one of your posts, I'm like, I needed that and I needed that. And it's not bullshit and it's not fluff and you're not putting it out there for the likes. It is really real advice that some of us need to hear sometimes, like what I just read. There's some of us in today's world who really have learned the importance of helping a child with their social and emotional growth and learning, separate and apart from raising them, disciplining them, trying to get them to be who we think they should be. And it's that part that gets overlooked that causes the most damage.
And I think what's also concerning for me is that some people undervalue it, right? And
when I was your age, I didn't get that, and I'm just fine. Exactly. That's the person who's not just fine.
Right. Exactly. I mean, even making that statement is like an example of, because anyone who's done any inner work would value this, right? And essentially what social emotional learning is developing and fortifying our children's emotional vocabulary so that they can name their feelings, they can understand that feelings are normal, and most importantly, that we have the capacity to work through them. As parents, that is our order. It's not just feed them and provide for them, but we're supposed to guide them through life, and it includes their inner life, especially if they're dealing with divorce, which can sometimes be destabilizing for them.
Absolutely destabilizing. And I'm wondering what you see on your end in terms of how often and why this social emotional need is being overlooked.
I think there's a lot of misinformation about what it is. And of course, there's a lot of division on many topics. And this might be one of them in which people are not really understanding what it really means. Um, and I think that, again, that's my point with that post, is to say that you don't have to understand it to mean your child is not going to need it,
Right.
or you won't see the consequences of them not having it.
Right.
And so just like we would want to teach them at certain points how to be financially successful, right? Wouldn't we want them to be emotionally successful so that they can build the tools that they need to manage big emotions that come with being a human being?
What are some ways in which parents are ignoring the social emotional piece? Like examples of things they say and do where it would be a really great time to actually hone in on that social emotional piece.
I want to talk about two parts of it. So there's the parents who unfortunately haven't done this work themselves, so they want to minimize their child's emotions, and so they're like, get over it. Like, again, they're not equipped, so they're not equipped to teach us. We can't teach what we don't know, right? And so there's that part, right, where they're unable to really guide their children through difficult emotions. And so they just want to extinct them. Like, you need to stop crying. You need to move through this.
Right. It's
Oh, it's not a big
uncomfortable
deal.
for me, so we're going to pretend it doesn't exist for you.
Exactly.
Right.
And so it's a lot of invalidation and minimizing it. And then there's the parents who are well-meaning and they're just afraid of going there, right? There is this myth that if I talk to my child about their emotions, that they're going to dwell on them, or that if I, let's say in the context of divorce, if I bring this subject up, that then it's like, pouring salt on a wound. Why bring it up, right? And so they're well-meaning, but they're almost afraid of having these conversations. And what we know is, from being a human, but also from research, is that when we give space to these hard conversations, when we teach children how to name their emotions, and more importantly, that we're not afraid of them, that they're part of being human, and that despite how angry or sad or frustrated we feel, we can manage them.
Yeah.
We can overcome them, and that they have the resilience inside. We can build the resilience inside of them for them to manage these hard moments in life, because life keeps swinging.
Yeah. And ignoring their discomfort by changing the subject or pretending it doesn't exist doesn't make it go away.
Make it go away.
I had this very high level conversation with my daughter yesterday because something we're really talking about now is how she feels in her body in terms of her emotions, right?
Okay.
So she had a situation last week where I got a call from school. She had a terrible stomach ache.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, she didn't know. It was her anxiety. She was
Right.
nervous about something, right? So when we did finally have that conversation, because she was like, I don't have to go to the bathroom and I'm not nauseous, I said, could there be something you're nervous about? And she was like, yeah, I am nervous about X, Y, and Z. And so I shared with her how when I was her age, I spent 2 years in the nurse's office with stomach aches. My mom took me to every doctor, specialist, allergist. No one ever stopped to connect the social piece to what I was feeling in my body. And I shared with my daughter, had somebody helped me through that, I would have been a lot more confident and felt better today and had way less resentment for my parents, right? And she was like, well, you helped me be, you're the reason why I'm confident. And I'm like, I'm not giving you confidence. I'm giving you the tools to know how you feel and act accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So sometimes it shows up in our body. It manifests like that through illness or through pains. We sometimes see headaches or stomach aches or school refusal. Especially with younger children, you're going to see behavior as communication. They're telling you, I'm in distress. I'm sad.
Behavior as communication.
Yes. And so it doesn't go away. It's like what you mentioned. It doesn't go away. So helping them build their emotional vocabulary and in turn their emotional intelligence is just giving them the tools to navigate life, especially during difficult periods where they're able to say, okay, this is what I'm feeling, this is how it's showing up for me, and this is what I can do with it. And sometimes what that is just a deep chat with their mom, right? Sometimes it's an actual, something that they can do, like maybe draw a picture or call a relative or whatever the case may be, but an actionable step that they can take. But most importantly, that we as humans are capable of dealing with our emotions and that they're normal, that even the strongest, most intelligent, most evolved humans struggle.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That we can overcome it.
And how comfortable are you with like having a parent model for a child? I am really stressed out right now. Here's what I'm doing to make myself feel better. Is that bordering too much on letting your child know you're stressed and putting a burden on them? Or is it really beneficial in showing them that, like, we all end up feeling this way and modeling what to do about it?
That's a great question, and one in which a lot of parents, there's a lot of gray area, right? And so the first thing I want to say is, like, we are not called to present perfectly to our children. That's dishonest. And we are missing this vital piece of demonstrating for them what a full human looks like, right? And so
Gray
that
hairs
burdens
and
them.
all, baby.
That burdens them with perfectionism. Like,
Right.
well, my mom never struggled. She never seemed depressed. She never seemed, unhappy. But there's nuance to this. Of course, your child is not your therapist, so we shouldn't be confessing to them. This all should be with the idea of modeling, right? What this looks like for me. So I personally, when I'm having a hard moment, I say, I'm really stressed right now. I'm going to take a minute to calm myself down, right? And I'm going to do X, Y, and Z in order to do that. And in that moment, I'm mindful that this is a teachable moment for my child. Just the other day, we were I was having a hard moment. We were at a restaurant, and there was like an incident, and I got upset, and my child was like, "Oh, mom, you seem upset." I'm like, "Yeah, this is kind of upsetting." And so it's normal for me to be upset, but I'm going to work through this feeling because, I'm working on myself and on my behavior. So there's so many lessons with us being a full human that our children can draw from. But again, there's nuance to this. We don't want to say this
Burden them.
with the idea of burdening them, but just being authentic, right?
But I
about
love
our experience.
I love what you just shared, because number one, it shows the environment of safety that you've created where your child can call you out on something like that. And not to call you out in like a bad way, but just to
Noticing,
to notice. And that's something I think when you are tuning into yourself and how it relates to your child's experience, you have to know who your kid is too. Like, do you have, like, I happen to have a very perceptive and intuitive and observant child. So she knows immediately when the energy has changed. And I have to be honest with her about it. I can't be like, everything's fine. I just went through the hardest thing ever and life is great.
Yeah.
And I know that I have ways in which I can talk to her, because for kids like her, I think it's much worse to leave them unsure and creating their own narratives, right? Mommy seems stressed. It's probably because of me. And that's something maybe she wouldn't say openly if I didn't lay the groundwork for her to be able to talk to me and me to talk to her about these things.
Yeah, to some degree, it's like a light form of gaslighting when they're picking up on something and you're saying, no, that's not what's happening. I'm perfectly fine, right? I think, again, it's fear. I don't think parents do this with malice. We're for the most part, none of us want to screw up our kids.
We don't.
Nobody
We
does.
don't. But so many of us are still so screwed up from our past.
Yeah,
We can't deny that.
Yeah, and so we're just passing it down, right? We're invalidating ourselves. And so how can we, make space for our children's emotions when we ourselves haven't made space for our own, right? And so there's that fear that if I were to claim this, that yes, I'm sad and I'm going to help myself feel better by doing this and this and this and this. So it doesn't have to end in I'm sad, mommy's very depressed and I can't get over this. We can show them that, yes, I am struggling with this big feeling, and these are the things that I'm doing to kind of manage. So I'm going to call a friend tonight, or I have this planned, or I'm going to go do a workout because that always makes me feel better, or I'm going to book a yoga class. Whatever it is that you're doing, you can, explain to them that, yes, things are hard and they are perceiving that. Again, in your case, your daughter is very perceptive, and the more connected you are with your child, the more that they know. Even little children can pick up vibes. They can tell, right? They can read body language. There's so much language that's being picked up that's not verbal. It's nonverbal communication.
I tell parents all the time, it's not what you say, it's how you make your children feel. And so many parents will be like, oh, my children, they're fine. They're so resilient. They've been so strong through this whole divorce. They don't come to me with anything. They're good. And I'm like, have you checked beneath the hood? Because it's my biggest concern are the children who aren't saying anything, who are pretending to be fine, because none of us are fine all the time. And those are the kids that you really need to check in with the most. The younger, the better, so that they're learning to share, right? And that they can come to you with their stuff, because the way a child will begin to shut down just based off of the energy they feel is so terrible. And I see it all the time.
Yeah. We're modeling for them, whether we realize it or not. We are a working model of being a human to them. So there's a lot of explicit learning that they engage in, like we're telling them how to function as a person, but there's a lot of implicit learning that they're learning just by watching you be a person, right? And so if you are in this energy where they can clearly feel that something is off, but you're saying everything is fine, they'll learn that that's how they have to deal with their emotions. And again, it's not about dwelling in them and saying, let's say they're struggling and the situation is a difficult one. So that is a natural, normal response. It's more about validating that it makes sense. This is hard. And so if you're having a hard time, it makes sense that you're having a hard time because this is a hard moment. Now, we can also build tools and work through this together. I'm always on your side. That's mainly what they need to know, is that despite how hard anything they face is, you are on their side. We are called to be their emotional anchors. And I know that this is a tall order. I understand it, especially when we are also human beings living our lives and sometimes really maxed out on life.
Well,
But that
parenting is a tall order, and co-parenting is an even taller one.
This is the tall order.
Get on board or don't.
And sometimes, you know what? This could be inspiring and saying, like, I have to get it together because I have people relying on me, and that helps us build our inner strength. But if things are difficult for us and we're adults and we have tools and we have perspective and we have maturity on our side and we have the ability to really seek out resources, imagine how scary and difficult it is for our children. We are their only tool. We are the only ones that can anchor them. And at times it can feel like we are their emotional dumpster and, to some degree, helping them through everything. But that is the role. That is the role in parenting.
Now, what I see a lot, and I'm sure you can speak to this, is in a co-parented situation, there is one parent who is almost the keeper of the relationship with the other parent because the child is exhibiting distress about the other parent or sharing things about how the other parent makes them feel, which are not good things. And now you're the parent who's working double time to bring in that social emotional piece and also help buffer the relationship and support the child to go there. And that's the tallest order. I'd say that's been the hardest part of my co-parenting journey. What are the things in moments like that where you have yourself who is completely comfortable and fine focusing on that social emotional piece and the other parent is just missing the mark? What is it, certain specific things that parents should be doing in that situation?
Caring for yourself. Number one. Okay. Caring for yourself, because what you just
not
said,
losing yourself.
You are being asked to do the most. Not just be in the experience of what this is like for you, but what this is like to parent a child like this, but then also having to navigate this with your child. So the first most important thing you need to do is care for yourself. Make sure you are well resourced and helped, whether that's with a therapist, with your friends, with your community. You need to be cared for because, again, it is a tall order. In order to pour into your child in these in this specific dynamic, you need to be cared for first. Okay. So that's first and foremost. It's going to be almost impossible to do this work if you are completely depleted by this. And so that's a priority. The second thing I want to tell you is that children need one person, one adult in their life that can ground them. And unfortunately, sometimes that in this case, when they don't have another one, they're actually sometimes actively harming them. That responsibility lies on you even heavier. But you are enough. And again, that's why you need to be well resourced, because you are the sole one that's going to be bringing them, grounding them, and letting them know that despite how difficult this is, I'm feeling it too as your mom, but we're going to get through this together. Rinse and repeat, one day at a time, love. One day at a time. We're going to get through this together. Share what you're feeling. I'm feeling it too. But I'm glad you shared this with me and we're in it together. And this is something we know about human beings, is that when we share our stories in community, and in this case with a trusted loved one, things feel lighter. Life feels lighter simply because we're in it together. And so I think the saddest part is when a child or even a parent is navigating it and feeling like completely isolated. So that's why the parent needs to be resourced, and then the child needs to be resourced with the parent.
There is a lot in that I had to swallow and not cry, because it's a beautiful thing to be that one parent, but it is completely and utterly terrifying and exhausting. And being in that role, I think I've leaned into trying to self-care as much as I can recently. I mean, you can't deny the stress that it puts on you and also the fear of saying the wrong thing, right? Like, I've got bald spots, girlfriend. My hair's been falling out in clumps. I'm not sleeping well because when you realize that you have to be that person in a critical situation, you're gonna really overthink every little thing. And it feels like there's a constant in supporting your child's social, emotional learning and growth. You're walking a fine line between validating and teaching and potentially shining a light on the other parent's inability to be the same way. And it's a very difficult spot to be in. Do you see that happen for people?
I know exactly what you mean. And what I want to tell you is that you don't have to be perfect at this. This isn't, when I say be supportive, I'm not meaning you have to say the right thing each and every time. There is always room to say, you know what we talked about on Tuesday? I want to go back to that conversation. I want to edit it. We are not
Ooh, I
called
love
to
that.
be perfect.
Ooh,
And so
that's powerful.
once you realize that everything can go back and say, you know what, I wasn't when I gave you this advice or what I was coming from this place. And again, I always think of like what a teachable moment, right? Even for them, that they can learn that even in a moment of desperation or of being in the middle of a really deep feeling, whether that's sadness or anger or frustration, even adults sometimes miss the mark. And there's always room to say, you know what, I need to do rewind and edit that. And actually, what I want to say now that I'm outside of that wave of emotion is this and this and this. And that's what I want you to hold on to. And so we cannot go through parenting in general, despite the circumstance, especially in this circumstance, as if we're walking through a landmine. Like we cannot say the wrong thing because it's going to royally ruin our children. Listen, that's
Well,
not what royally ruins our
it's
children.
been ruining me, honestly, this fear of having experienced what I experienced as a child, abandonment, estrangement, alienation, all of these things. I feel like, and I've said this to my therapist many times, and it was about a year ago where there was really a big shift in me that was so helpful, but constantly parenting against this fear of what is my child going to say in therapy when she's all grown up? How am I messing her up in each freaking moment? If she calls me to her room because she needs me and I don't go, am I scarring her? When you have your own trauma, it is super hard to not feel that way. And inviting in for me this idea of, like you said, not having to be perfect all the time, self-compassion, honesty. So many times I say to my daughter, like, you're learning to be my kid and I'm learning to be your mom and we're in this together. We're a team on the same team has helped so much for this, take this burden of having to be perfect off my shoulders.
Of course. And that's why one of the reasons I focus most on is repair, because the ruptures are inevitable. And even in cases in which you didn't mean to rupture the relationship, it's two human beings learning, right? We're learning, they're learning. And again, there's no manual. We can do and should be educated and try to do the best for our children like we do for anything other role we play. But there's no such thing as perfection. And again, like I said earlier, I don't think that they learn a lot from that. It's not realistic. And it's actually detrimental to some degree. But this idea that relationships, any healthy relationship is going to take editing. It's going to say, hey, you know what I said to you last week, I was in a bad mood and I, dumped my feelings onto you. I mean, how many times do we do this in partnership? We should be doing this in partnership. There's a lot of repairing. And so getting good at repairing, I think, allows us to bring down this pressure that I think is specific to millennials, because again, many of us are in therapy and we're much more aware of how our childhood played a role in who we are as people. And so we're almost too aware. Again, maybe we're overthinking sometimes every single word. And while we do have to be cautious, it shouldn't be something in which it's robbing you of your humanity too, because again, self-compassion here, right? As long as you're not acting with malice towards your child, a lot of what we fear that we're going to damage them is really in our heads and maybe counterproductive.
Oh, yeah. That's the thing. It is counterproductive. It really holds you back from your authentic self as a parent, I realized. And that
You're
authenticity.
performing.
Yeah. The authenticity is far more important. And,
Yeah.
my therapist said something about like, you want to be careful about creating almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're
Right.
so worried about something happening and you're swinging the pendulum the other way.
Overcorrecting.
it could be creating the
Yeah.
same exact thing. So I have another question for you about the social emotional piece.
Hmm.
You know, everything these days online is you should be parenting this way and gentle parenting and no discipline and conscious parenting. I'm a big believer in conscious parenting, especially because of my past. But is there a world in which this social emotional piece is universal and not just specific to one sort of parenting style? Or would this fall more under like gentle parenting or what do you think? Because there's so many styles.
I don't. First of all, I don't subscribe to any style.
Okay,
I
because
think we draw. Yeah.
the social piece
Yeah.
makes people think they're being
Yeah.
soft.
Yeah. I understand that. And I think truthfully, one of the worst marketing words for any style of parenting is like the whole gentle parenting thing. People hear the word gentle and they've completely misconstrued it. Both in the ones who are against it and the ones who are for it. So a lot of people, hear gentle and they're actually engaging in permissive parenting. And then others are hearing the word gentle and they're thinking, okay, no, the child is going to, be in charge here. I'm not even going to give it a chance. So it's done nothing for the movement, to be honest.
Crazy how the word gentle has
Yeah.
triggered so many people.
It really has.
When it really just means like showing up in a gentle way for your child.
Right. And so I really write about love and limits because I think that is based off of authoritative parenting style, which is like the most well-researched style. And gentle parenting is kind of like a rebrand of that. And essentially it's like you have to have love and limits, right? Right. You need to be kind and show your child empathy and respect, but you also need to understand that you are the one supposed to be setting boundaries and holding them accountable and helping them become respectable human beings, right? But when it comes to this topic specifically, I don't think it's necessarily falls into any of these styles. It's more of like learning our inner landscape. There's adults that come to me in therapy that they're learning social emotional language, right?
Of course they are, because especially men were never taught this.
They were never taught this. This is just intelligence about our emotions and about this part of ourselves that many of us have disconnected from or have refused to engage with because, again, maybe at one point in society it was considered weak or there was misinformation around it or just generally it wasn't really valued. And so we are now in their adult lives building their emotional vocabulary, saying, okay, when this happens to you with your partner, how is it that you feel? They've never really questioned whether anger is a secondary emotion or not. They just feel angry. But what's beneath the anger? And then we help them name, well, it's actually sadness, or I feel humiliated, or I feel grief. They haven't even been able to claim that as an adult. So essentially, this, again, is akin to financial literacy. If your parents didn't teach you certain things, and now as an adult, you realize, wow, I really want to equip my children with knowing what a budget is and how to, invest their money so that they can have an upper hand. This is the same concept. We want to equip them so that they can be better than us, right? As early as on, there's this concept of whatever you learn late, teach your child early. Teach them how to name and manage themselves. And ultimately, this helps them not just with their relationship with you, but also the relationship they're going to form with their peers, better community members. We know that children who understand their emotions are better able to be more empathic towards others rather than judgmental.
It's empathy. It's productivity, right? Understanding how you feel in your body and what doesn't feel good when you need to shut down because you're no longer being productive, like how you show up at work, in school. I mean, like you said in your post, it trickles down.
Trickles down to every aspect of your life. Imagine yourself understanding at a young age that emotions come and go, right? And that we can be sort of like a skilled surfer, that the waves will be coming, but we can learn how to ride them. That just because you're feeling this overwhelming feeling, you don't have to be necessarily under it, but you can acknowledge it and say, woof, this is a strong emotion. What can I do to kind of navigate it? And eventually I'll be on the other side of it rather than just feeling it, sulking in it, and then lashing out, right? I mean, what an upper hand, what generational wealth
there are
passing
too
on.
many people doing that and calling it parenting. They're calling it discipline. They're calling it, I was raised this way and I turned out just fine. And I'm so glad we're having these conversations to hopefully not just shift the view on social emotional learning for our children and growth, not being a soft thing, but a necessary skill for life and enjoyment, fulfillment in life. And also for the person who's carrying it all on their shoulders because the other parent just simply can't get on board, how important that work is. I'm wondering if you have any useful tools that you can share for the listeners if they are realizing that they really need to incorporate more of the social emotional skills into their conversations with their kids and how to model them. Is there anything that you can recommend?
I would say let's break it down a little bit because I think the concept social emotional skills might seem like something that's overwhelming or this, foreign language. Essentially, what it encompasses is naming and understanding our emotions. And that's really all that it is, right? So when your child is feeling, you can tell that because of their behavior or because you see them extra moody or sad, or in some cases, some psychosomatic complaints like I don't want to go to school, I have a headache,
Stomach ache.
you stomach ache. You sit with them and you say, is there something else that can be going on? Is there, there's a feelings wheel that you can get off of Pinterest that it kind of goes into like the main emotions that we know. Let's say sadness, okay, but where is the sadness coming from? Is it from embarrassment? Is it from feeling defeated? Is it from feeling lonely? And just opening up the conversation about naming the actual feeling and then validating it. Well, it's normal. If this happened to you in the lunchroom, well, then of course you would feel sad.
Right.
Or in this case of living in two homes, there's a lot of grief that comes forward with like, well, now I have, I have to share these kinds of experiences, or I miss one parent, or one parent is making me feel guilty for something and the other one, isn't, which is a very common thing that we see, naming it, right? So what you're feeling inside, that's why it feels so crummy. It's because this feeling is a difficult one to kind of navigate, and it makes sense. Validation is huge. It makes sense. So what you're feeling makes sense for the experience that you're having.
Yes.
Now,
That's true validation. Like, not, wow, you're sad. I see that. But it's okay. Take it one step further.
no wonder no wonder you're feeling that way, because you're experiencing this. This is a heavy thing for you to be experiencing at your age. And it does make sense for you to feel that. So that right there is like relieving the valve of the pressure cooker. You might not think that that's doing much, but it's doing
No, it
everything.
does.
Essentially, that's what most therapists are doing with their clients, is saying that makes sense. What happened to you and the way you've reacted to it makes sense. That human to human validation is everything. But then what can we do about it? Maybe there is something to do about it. So for example, if you're missing me when you're at dad's house and you're feeling guilty about it because you don't want to bring it up, well, first of all, that makes sense. You're used to being with me all the time and you need me sometimes. And so that makes sense. So when you're feeling that way, I want you to know that it's okay to feel that way, that you don't have to put on, a happy face when you don't feel that way. But what can we do about it? Why don't you, in those moments, text me? Text me what you're feeling. I'll text you back and we can connect in this way, or write me a letter, or, something tangible that they can do with it. And then this is giving them the surfboard.
And also the indication that I don't have to be right next to you to help you.
Right.
Right. Like, I'm here as a reminder, as a supportive partner in whatever you're feeling, but you can take the reins and decide in that moment for yourself, how you want to feel and what you can do to shift that feeling. I think that's a really great lesson too.
It's helping them navigate it.
There's a lot of shame I see in with that. There's the guilt piece. I feel guilty for maybe not wanting to be at my dad's house. And then the shame of, what did this feeling of mine cause somebody else? And I started really doing, because I think shame was a big thing that I struggled with unknowingly. I'm realizing it now as an adult, but asking my daughter, do you feel this way because of shame? Do you feel ashamed that you made this choice? Do you feel ashamed that this thing was said or called to the surface? And that feeling of shame is so heavy and can be so isolating and lonely. And I think it needs to be recognized in that, even in the most well-intentioned parents, especially in the divorce scenario, your kids are going to carry a certain level of shame that they may not be sharing with you.
I think that that's a great point to make and something we want to highlight, because children, especially at certain ages, can think outside of themselves. So when something terrible is happening in their lives, they usually blame themselves. And that's where the shame comes from. And so that piece, like, no, just having this conversation, imagine if you're not having it and the narrative that they're forming, again, is like, this is my fault. I'm a bad person for feeling this way. Another underrated skill to build is one of understanding that many things can exist at once. That feelings sometimes show up in a mixed bag. You can feel happy to be with dad, but also missing mom.
Yes, the both
Uh,
and is the most critical teaching tool.
Yeah. And so that's what we mean when we say what are social emotional skills? It's teaching them, again, giving them this landscape or essentially this map, right? To navigate complicated feelings that they are, whether they're talking to you about it or not, they are facing. And when children don't know how to make sense of their emotions, they internalize them as I'm bad because this feeling is bad. They don't have the skills to say this feeling is outside of me. Again, some of us adults are still learning this, but especially with their limited capacities and the way that their worldview exists at that age of development, they internalize everything as though they're bad. So I must be bad because I'm feeling this. And in reality, that's a normal thing to feel. And so just validating, like, you know what? Sometimes we don't just feel one thing at once. We feel a couple of things at once. And that's okay. It's part of being human. Sometimes it is a little messy and it doesn't make you a bad person because you're struggling with many feelings at once. Where in this situation, they are called to please two different parents. And whether we put them in that situation or not, many parents do put them in that situation. But even in the case where the parents aren't putting them in that situation of choosing between the two of us, they inherently feel that they need to.
They have to be actively told.
Yes.
You know, how many
exactly.
times I've had conversations with my daughter about it's not my weekend or daddy's weekend, it's your life,
Mm.
right? So she made a comment to me once a few years ago because her dad reached out and was like, I have tickets to this thing. And I said to Bella, oh my God, what an amazing opportunity. You
Mhm.
should go with daddy. And she was like, no, it's okay. It's your weekend. And I'm like,
Mhm.
honey, it's your life. Like
Mhm.
you're not my library book. Like this is your world.
Mhm.
You just happen to operate in two homes. If you want to go, go, and like giving her that permission to not feel responsible
Mhm.
for my time or a parenting plan. Like kids need to hear that over and over again. I say to her all the time, like, you're not responsible for me.
Mhm.
You're not responsible for daddy. You're responsible for you in 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 terms of how we feel. That's not your problem, that's our
Mhm.
problem, right? And a lot of parents think they take it, it's sick, but they take it
Yeah.
as a when their child is worried about them, oh how caring,
Mhm.
oh what a great kid, when it is the complete opposite of what needs to be
Mhm.
happening.
Unfortunately, you're in the minority, at least from what. But hopefully, these conversations help push this conversation, and they're inspiring and eye opening. Because again, I don't think anyone is doing this with malicious intent. Most parents are well meaning, but the truth is
But
that
there is a
a
lot of
lot of
ego
the
involved,
times,
malicious or
yes,
not.
a lot of the times we're parenting from a place of what serves us or what we need, and this is why again. The most important work we can do for our children is the work we do in ourselves because you're able, it seems, to come from this place because you have decentered yourself in this conversation and you've prioritized your child. You might know many adults who are not doing this. In fact,
Most are
many
not.
co-parents don't do this. They make it about themselves and their feelings. And so to be able to say that despite what this makes me feel like, the greater good is my daughter's good. And so I am going to think outside of myself and this is what's best for her. There's no role she needs to fill with me. There's nothing that I need from this. My role here is for her. And so the best work we can do for our children is the work we do with ourselves. Because again, you'll understand these concepts better. You yourself will have a handle on things, but we can't be the tour guide to a place we've never been to. That's truthfully, I think the most important thing I want to say, because how can we teach something that we ourselves are struggling with?
You know what I'm thinking about as you're saying this? The people who are still listening to this episode in this moment are the people who probably need the conversation the
They
least,
already get it. It's true. Well,
you know,
that's the thing about therapy. Most people in therapy
are
are
there
not
to deal with the
the
people.
people who are not in
No.
therapy,
And that's
right? And
the
so,
amount of money I've spent in therapy since the middle of this summer when my own co-parenting situation has taken a weird turn. And it's like the therapists both are like, because I have two
mhm,
separate ones that are like, it's not you who
mhm,
needs to be coming. And it's very frustrating, but it's also speaking to the fact that if you are still listening to this, you probably are the one safe and secure person, and pat yourself on the back right
mhm,
now for that. And at the same time, get your phone in your notes app and write down something you're going to do for yourself later, because we know how important it
mhm,
is to put your oxygen mask on first before caring for anyone else. It's a lot of work and it's worth it work, but it is hard work. And I'm
yeah. And if anything, maybe this conversation would be that validation, right?
Please don't send this link to your ex and be like, "You see, I told you so."
That's not
People
going to
have
serve
done
you.
that. Then they get mad at
Serve-
me. There's enough
Yeah.
people mad at
That's
me.
not going to serve you in any way because you're wasting your energy. Pour it into the places, which is your child, where you really do have an impact within yourself. Validate yourself. Again, remember how we mentioned that validation is so needed as a human. Let this conversation be that. Like if you have been on this path and it's a treacherous one and it's a difficult one, but you identify with these points, let this conversation be that validation to say, all right, I don't have to get this right. There's always room to edit it, but it is a tall order. I am the guide here for my child. I cannot make a lot of this about me. But then there is a me that exists, and that me needs to be supported. It needs to be well resourced, and whatever that might be does need to be prioritized so that I can come to parenthood with this task at hand and do the best that I can. And when I don't, that's okay too, because they're still learning to be drawn from that. And ultimately, our child does need to see a full, authentic human being, one that obviously protects them from certain things, but no need to, again, put this pressure on ourselves to get it right every single time, because I'm telling you, no one does. No one does.
If you are still listening to this podcast and you are so motivated to really strengthen and secure the attachment and the connection you have to your child, I have 2 very important pre-recorded courses available on my store site. One is how to protect your relationship with your child when you are dealing with a high conflict ex. That's probably my most popular
Mhm.
pre-recorded course. It's going to give you all the tools that you need to grasp and take on in your journey towards being that one safe parent and not creating a dynamic of instability, but more of I'm here for you, I've got you. And then there are various other things like the resilient child, how to create a child that thrives in the face of divorce, despite maybe difficulties in the other home. These have been transformational for people. I want to offer them to you at a discounted rate. So use the code METHOD50 to take 50% off both of those. If you feel so inclined, they're pre-recorded so you can watch on your own time and really, really valuable.
Mhm.
You are really, really valuable.
Thank you.
I love, like I said, there are accounts that I, follow to be nice. And then there are accounts that I follow because I need, and yours is one of them.
Mhm.
You are at the Mindful Corner.
Mhm.
It's been a really the corner for me, a cornerstone for me for so long. And because you're a doctor, do you serve as a guardian? And are you appointed to cases or
I don't do any of that
you
work,
don't do any of
but
that work?
people work with me individually to kind of just, again, their own inner work as a psychologist. So I not only support moms in this situation, but also obviously sometimes dads as well, and the teenagers that are in these hot moments between two parents. And yeah, that's pretty much most of the work that I do.
Do you see a lot of loyalty binds and
Yes,
yeah?
yes. And so I
And why don't you tell our audience
that's why my work online is for the parents.
what happens to the child
Mhm.
who is dealing with a parent who is regularly trying to bash the other parent? Does that
Mhm.
child respect that parent or fear that parent?
It's going to give you short-term gains, but long-term consequences. And the sad part is it's not just the consequences that come to that parent-child relationship, because kids grow up, right? We all grew up. We all figured out our
Oh
parents.
yeah.
And so I know that that's difficult for the parent that's on the other side of this, thinking like, my goodness, I'm going to have to wait in some cases until they're adults so that they could see the reality
Never
of what
takes that
happened.
long, baby girl.
It usually doesn't, but um, you're going to be a parent to your adult child for longer than you are to them as children. That relationship you have with them as adults is going to be the longest relationship you have. And that relationship will be largely dictated by how you dealt with things in their childhood. We do not forget our childhood. And so for the parent that is the one engaging in contentious relationships with the child and the other parent, you're going to get a short-term gain. Maybe you got them, right? But the cost is going to be your relationship. And unfortunately, sometimes your child and teen's mental health in a very critical period of their lives. And so just consider that. What's more important for me to get my other co-parent or for my child's developing brain to be at peace and to be developing as healthy as possible. So I don't shy away from having really stern, direct conversations, because I think sometimes, first of all, we can handle it. We can handle it as people. You can handle hearing this truth. And sometimes we need to be shaken up because, again, we get caught up in our ego and, really revenge at times, or, and we lose sight of this. That I think that ultimately, for the most part, we all want well for our children. And when we engage in this way, we don't realize that we're not just not serving our child and our future relationship, but we can also be causing real harm here.
I'm
And
glad you said it. I mean, I lived it, so I know it to be true.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is love your child more than you hate your ex, if you
Yep.
do nothing else.
Yep.
Erika, thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for this conversation. It was helpful in so many ways. I encourage you to go check out Erika's work. If you are in the South Florida area, Erika is a local, amazing mental health practitioner that can work with you on how to best serve the needs of your children
Mhm.
as you go through the divorce process. We'll see you next time on the Moving On Method.
Bye-bye.